Maya stared at herself in the bathroom mirror one last time, taking a deep breath before grabbing her backpack. Today was the day she had been dreading for weeks. Moving to a new school in senior year wasn't exactly what she had planned for herself, but life had other ideas. Her dad got transferred to this small town called Riverside, and honestly, she wasn't thrilled about it. Back in Chicago, she had her crew, her dojo, and teachers who knew her well. Here, she was starting from scratch, and that feeling in her stomach told her it wasn't going to be easy. The drive to Riverside High School felt longer than it actually was. Her mom kept giving her encouraging smiles through the rearview mirror, but Maya could tell she was worried too. They both knew what it was like to be different in places where different wasn't always welcomed with open arms. "You got this, baby girl," her mom said as they pulled up to the school. "Remember what Master Chen always taught you about walking with confidence?" Maya nodded, remembering her martial arts instructor's words. Master Chen had been training her since she was 8 years old, and just last year she had earned her black belt in Taekwondo. But martial arts wasn't just about fighting for her. It was about discipline, respect, and knowing when to use your skills and when to walk away. The school building looked typical enough. Red brick, big windows, students hanging around outside before the first bell. But as Maya walked toward the entrance, she noticed something pretty quickly. She could count on one hand how many students looked like her. This was definitely going to be an adjustment. Walking through those front doors felt like entering a different world. The hallways were wider than her old school and everything looked newer. Students were chatting by their lockers, and teachers were rushing around with their morning coffee. It seemed normal enough, but Maya couldn't shake the feeling that eyes were following her. And they were. She heard whispers as she walked past groups of students. Not mean whispers necessarily, but the kind that happen when something new and different shows up in a place where new and different doesn't happen very often. Is that the new girl? Where do you think she's from? She's really pretty. Wonder if she's nice. Maya kept her head up and her shoulders straight, just like Master Chen taught her. First impressions mattered, and she wanted to show confidence, even if she didn't feel it right now. Finding her locker took longer than expected. The numbers didn't seem to follow any logical order, and she found herself walking in circles for a few minutes. Finally, a girl with curly red hair and a friendly smile approached her. "You look lost. Need help finding something?" "Yeah, locker 247. I swear I've walked past every number except that one," Maya said with a laugh. "Oh, that's in the weird section. They renovated this part of the school and the numbering got all messed up. Follow me." The girl, who introduced herself as Riley, seemed genuinely nice. She walked Maya to her locker and even showed her a shortcut to the main office where Maya needed to pick up her final schedule. "So, you're from Chicago?" Riley asked as they walked. "Born and raised." "This is definitely different," Maya replied, looking around at the much smaller, quieter hallways compared to her old school. "Yeah, Riverside isn't exactly the most exciting place on earth, but it's not terrible once you get used to it. What brings your family here?" "My dad's job. He works for a tech company and they needed someone to run their new office here." Riley nodded understandingly. "That's cool. My dad moved us here from California when I was in middle school, so I know how weird it feels to be the new person." Having someone friendly to talk to made Maya feel a little better. Maybe this wouldn't be as bad as she thought. Her first few classes went pretty smoothly. Math was math, no matter where you were. English seemed interesting, and her teacher complimented her essay from her previous school. Science was always her strong subject, so that felt comfortable too. But it was during the passing periods between classes that Maya really noticed the stares. Some students looked curious. Others seemed friendly enough, but there were definitely some looks that made her uncomfortable. Not openly hostile, but the kind of looks that sized her up, trying to figure out where she fit in their world. By lunchtime, Maya was feeling pretty exhausted, and it wasn't from the schoolwork. Being the center of attention, even when people were trying to be subtle about it, was draining. She grabbed her lunch from her locker and looked around the cafeteria, trying to figure out where to sit. The cafeteria had that typical high school setup. The popular kids had their table near the windows. The athletes sat together on one side. The theater kids were animated and loud at their corner table. The academic types were quietly discussing homework at their spots. And then there was Maya, standing there with her lunch tray, not quite fitting into any of those groups yet. She found an empty table toward the back corner, away from the main traffic, but where she could still see what was going on around her. It wasn't ideal, but it would work for now. As she unpacked her lunch, Maya pulled out her AP chemistry notes. She had always been the type to use any free time to stay ahead in her studies, and today felt like a good day to keep her mind busy with something familiar. The material wasn't too difficult, but it required focus, which was exactly what she needed right now. She had always found comfort in academics. Numbers and formulas made sense. They followed rules. They were predictable. Unlike high school social situations, which felt like trying to navigate a maze blindfolded. Maya was so focused on her notes that she almost didn't notice when the conversation at a nearby table got louder. A group of students were talking and laughing, and every now and then, she caught them glancing in her direction. She tried to ignore it and focus on her chemistry problems, but their voices kept getting louder, and their glances became more obvious. "Think she's friendly?" one of them said, not even trying to whisper anymore. "Only one way to find out," another voice replied. Maya kept her eyes on her notebook, hoping they would lose interest and find something else to talk about. She had been through this before at her old school when new students arrived. The curiosity usually died down after a few days once people realized you were just a regular person trying to get through high school like everyone else. But something about the tone in their voices made her think this might be different. She glanced up briefly and saw 3 students at the table closest to hers. 2 boys and a girl, all looking like they belonged to the popular crowd based on their clothes and the confident way they carried themselves. One of the boys was tall with blonde hair and the kind of smile that probably worked well with teachers and parents. The other was shorter but built like he spent a lot of time in the gym. The girl had perfectly styled hair and makeup that probably took an hour to do each morning. They were all looking directly at her now, not even pretending to have their own conversation anymore. Maya felt her stomach tighten. This was exactly what she had hoped to avoid, especially on her first week. She just wanted to eat her lunch, review her notes, and get through the rest of the day without any drama. But as they stood up from their table and started walking toward her, Maya realized that might not be an option. Maya pretended to be deep in her chemistry notes as the 3 students approached her table. Her heart started beating faster, but she kept her breathing steady, just like Master Chen had taught her during meditation sessions at the dojo. The tall blonde boy reached her table first, pulling out the chair across from her without asking permission. He sat down with that overly confident smile that Maya had seen before on bullies who thought they owned the world. "Mind if we join you?" he asked, even though he was already sitting down. His 2 friends flanked him on either side, the muscular boy standing with his arms crossed and the girl leaning against the table with a smirk on her face. Maya looked up from her notes calmly. "Actually, I'm trying to study right now." "Study?" The girl laughed, tossing her perfectly curled hair over her shoulder. "It's lunchtime, honey. Nobody studies during lunch." "I do," Maya replied simply, hoping they would take the hint and leave her alone. The blonde boy leaned forward, getting closer to her personal space. "Come on, don't be antisocial. We're just trying to be friendly. I'm Brad, by the way. This is Tyler and Jessica." Maya noticed how he said friendly, but his tone didn't match the word. There was something underneath it that made her uncomfortable. "Nice to meet you," she said politely, then looked back down at her notes, hoping the conversation would end there. But Brad didn't take the hint. Instead, he reached over and tapped her notebook with his finger. "What's so important that you can't talk to your new classmates?" "Just some chemistry problems I want to review before next period," Maya answered, still trying to keep things civil. Tyler snorted. "Chemistry? What are you, some kind of genius or something?" The way he said genius made it sound like an insult rather than a compliment. Maya was starting to understand that this wasn't going to be a friendly welcome to the school conversation. "I just like to stay ahead in my classes," she said, keeping her voice neutral. Jessica pulled out her phone and started scrolling through it, but Maya could tell she was still listening to every word. Where are you from anyway? You definitely don't sound like you're from around here. Chicago, Maya answered briefly. Chicago? Brad's eyebrows went up. Big city girl, huh? Must be quite an adjustment coming to our little town. There was something in the way he said our little town that made it clear she wasn't welcome in it. Maya decided to try one more time to end this conversation peacefully. Look, I appreciate you guys coming over to introduce yourselves, but I really do need to focus on my homework. Homework can wait, Tyler said. And before Maya could react, he reached over and slammed her chemistry book shut, nearly catching her fingers in the process. The sound echoed through their section of the cafeteria, and Maya noticed several other students turning to look at what was happening. Some seemed curious, others looked uncomfortable, but nobody made any move to help. Hey, Maya said firmly, her voice staying calm despite the anger building inside her. Please don't touch my things. Tyler grinned like he found her reaction amusing. Oh, what's the matter? Did I mess up your perfect little study session? Jessica looked up from her phone with fake concern. Ah, did we upset the new girl? Maya took a deep breath, remembering what Master Chen always said about controlling your emotions in difficult situations. Getting angry would only make things worse, and these three were clearly looking for a reaction. I'm not upset, Maya said calmly. I just asked you not to touch my stuff. That seems reasonable. Brad leaned back in his chair, studying her with those calculating eyes. You know what I think. I think you think you're better than us. I don't think that at all, Maya replied honestly. I don't even know you guys. Exactly, Jessica chimed. You don't know us, but you're sitting here all by yourself acting like you're too good to make friends. Maya was starting to realize that nothing she said was going to satisfy these three. They had already decided what kind of person she was before they even talked to her. I'm not trying to act like anything, Maya said. I'm just trying to eat my lunch and do some homework. Tyler laughed, but it wasn't a nice laugh. Right, because you're so much smarter than everyone else here. The conversation was going in circles and Maya could feel the situation getting worse instead of better. She decided to try a different approach. Look, maybe we got off on the wrong foot, she said, attempting to sound friendly. I'm still getting used to everything here. It's all pretty new to me. For a moment, she thought maybe this would work. Brad's expression seemed to soften slightly, and Jessica stopped playing with her phone. But then Tyler spoke up again. Yeah, well, maybe if you weren't so stuck up, people would actually want to talk to you. And just like that, any hope of a peaceful resolution disappeared. I'm not stuck up, Maya said, her patience finally starting to wear thin. I'm just trying to mind my own business, and see? Jessica pointed at her like she had just proven a point. That attitude right there. You think you're too cool for us. Maya looked around the cafeteria and noticed that more students were watching now. Some had their phones out, probably hoping to catch some drama to post on social media later. She really didn't want to be the center of this kind of attention, especially during her first week at a new school. I don't think that at all, Maya said, trying one more time to de-escalate the situation. I'm just not really a lunch table social person. I like to use this time to get caught up on schoolwork. Brad stood up suddenly, his chair scraping loudly against the floor. You know what your problem is? You think because you're from some big city, you're automatically better than small-town kids. That's not true, Maya said. But she could tell they weren't interested in hearing what she had to say. Tyler moved closer, towering over her as she sat at the table. Maybe someone needs to teach you how things work around here. Maya felt her muscles tense up instinctively. Years of martial arts training had taught her to recognize when a situation was about to turn from verbal to physical, and all the warning signs were there. I'm not looking for any trouble, she said clearly, making sure her voice carried to the other students who were watching. Jessica laughed coldly. Too late for that, don't you think? The three of them had positioned themselves around her table in a way that made Maya feel trapped. Other students were definitely paying attention now, but Instead of helping, most of them seemed excited to see what would happen next. Maya realized she had two choices. She could get up and try to walk away, which might make her look weak and invite more problems later. Or she could stay and deal with whatever these three had planned. Either way, she had a feeling her quiet first week at Riverside High was about to come to a very dramatic end. Brad reached for her notebook again, this time with clear intention to cause trouble. Maybe this chemistry homework isn't as important as you think it is. Brad's hand hovered over Maya's chemistry notebook, and she could see the mean glint in his eyes. This wasn't just about her homework anymore. This was about power, about showing everyone in the cafeteria who was in charge. "Please don't," Maya said quietly but firmly. Her voice carried just enough authority that Brad paused for a second. That pause gave her hope. Maybe he would think twice about whatever he was planning to do. But Tyler wasn't having any of it. "Oh, come on, Brad," she said, "please," he mocked, drawing out the word like it was the funniest thing he'd ever heard. Jessica giggled and held up her phone, clearly recording what was happening. This is going to be so good for my story. Maya's stomach dropped when she saw the phone pointed at her. Bad enough that this was happening, but now it was going to be preserved forever on social media for everyone to see. "You really don't want to do this," Maya said, looking directly at Jessica. "Whatever you think is going to happen here, it's not worth putting online." Jessica rolled her eyes. "Don't tell me what to do, new girl. I'll post whatever I want." The cafeteria had gotten quieter around them. Maya could feel dozens of eyes watching, but it was like being in a bubble where everyone could see in. But nobody could help her. Brad finally made his move. He grabbed her notebook and held it up in the air, just out of her reach. "You want this back? Maybe you should ask nicely." Maya stood up slowly, keeping her movements calm and controlled. Master Chen always said that how you moved could either make a situation better or worse. "I'm asking you nicely," she said. "Please give me my notebook back." "I don't think you're asking nicely enough," Tyler said, stepping closer to her. He was trying to use his size to intimidate her, standing just a little too close to her personal space. Maya could smell his cologne and see the cruel smile on his face. He was enjoying this way too much. "What do you want me to do?" Maya asked, though she was pretty sure she didn't want to hear the answer. "How about you get on your knees and beg for it?" Brad suggested, and his friends burst into laughter like it was the most clever thing anyone had ever said. Maya felt heat rise in her cheeks, but not from embarrassment. From anger. These three thought they could humiliate her in front of the entire school just because she was new and different. "I'm not doing that," she said clearly. "Then I guess you don't really want your notebook back," Brad said with a shrug. Before Maya could respond, he opened the notebook and started tearing out pages. The sound of ripping paper seemed incredibly loud in the suddenly quiet cafeteria. Maya watched her careful notes, her homework, hours of work, flutter to the floor like confetti. Each torn page felt like a slap in the face. "Oops," Brad said with fake innocence. "Butterfingers." That was when Tyler decided to escalate things even further. He picked up Maya's lunch tray, the one with her sandwich and apple and juice box that her mom had packed for her that morning. "You know what?" Tyler said, grinning at his friends. "I don't think our new friend is hungry anymore." Maya knew what was coming next, but it happened too fast for her to move out of the way. Tyler dumped the entire contents of her lunch tray right onto her lap. The grape juice soaked through her favorite white shirt, the one she had picked out specially for her first week at the new school. Her sandwich fell apart on her jeans, leaving mayonnaise and turkey scattered across her legs. The cafeteria erupted in gasps and a few cruel laughs. Maya looked down at herself, dripping with juice and covered in food, and felt something inside her snap. But it wasn't anger that snapped. It was her patience. She stood up slowly, juice dripping from her shirt onto the floor. Her voice, when she spoke, was deadly calm. "You need to stop, right now." Tyler laughed and gave her shoulder a hard shove, trying to push her back down into her chair. "Or what? You're going to tell the teacher?" Maya absorbed the push without moving much, her years of training helping her maintain her balance. but the physical contact had crossed a line that couldn't be uncrossed. "I'm giving you one chance to walk away," she said, her voice so quiet that Tyler had to lean in to hear her. "Did you just threaten me?" Tyler asked, his voice getting louder and more aggressive. Jessica was still recording everything, moving around to get different angles like she was directing a movie. "This is so going viral," she said excitedly. Maya looked around the cafeteria one more time, hoping to see a teacher, a security guard, any adult who might step in and stop this before it went too far. But the adults were all busy with their own lunches in the teacher's lounge, and the students were all too entertained to go get help. She was on her own. Brad stepped closer, getting right in her face. "You know what I think? I think you need to learn some respect for how things work around here. And I think you need to learn when to quit while you're ahead," Maya replied, meeting his stare without backing down. That seemed to surprise him. Most people probably cowered when Brad got in their face like that. Big talk from someone who just got her lunch dumped on her, Jessica taunted from behind her phone. Tyler wasn't done yet. He reached out again, this time grabbing Maya's shoulder with both hands, clearly intending to shove her hard enough to knock her down completely. "Maybe a little trip will teach you some humility," he said, pushing with all his strength. But Maya had been ready for this moment since the confrontation started. As Tyler pushed, she didn't resist the way he expected her to. Instead, she moved with his force, letting his own momentum work against him. What happened next took less than 3 seconds, but it felt like slow motion to everyone watching. Maya grabbed Tyler's wrist as he pushed, stepped to the side, and used a basic hip throw that she had practiced thousands of times in the dojo. Tyler's own aggressive push provided all the energy she needed. He went flying over her shoulder and crashed into the table behind her, sending chairs scattering and making a noise that echoed through the entire cafeteria. The room went completely silent except for Tyler groaning on the floor. Brad's mouth fell open. Jessica's phone dropped from her hand, clattering on the floor. Maya stood there, breathing calmly, looking down at Tyler, who was flat on his back trying to figure out what had just happened to him. "I warned you," she said simply. But Brad wasn't done yet. His face had turned red with anger and embarrassment. His friend had just been thrown across the room by the new girl, and everyone had seen it. "You think you're tough?" he yelled, charging at Maya with his fists clenched. Maya sighed. She really had hoped it wouldn't come to this. But as Brad rushed toward her, she realized that some people just didn't know when to quit. Brad came at Maya like a charging bull, his face twisted with rage and embarrassment. He had just watched his friend get tossed across the cafeteria by a girl who looked like she weighed maybe 120 pounds soaking wet. His reputation was on the line and everyone was watching. Maya saw him coming and felt that familiar calm settle over her mind. It was the same feeling she got during tournaments at the dojo, when everything slowed down and her training took over. Brad swung his right fist toward her face, putting all his weight behind it. But Maya had been sparring with people bigger and stronger than Brad since she was 12 years old. She knew exactly what to do. She ducked under his wild punch so smoothly that it looked effortless. Brad's momentum carried him forward, and Maya grabbed his extended arm, pivoted on her hip, and sent him flying over her shoulder in a perfect throw. Brad landed hard on his back right next to Tyler, who was still trying to catch his breath from his own unexpected flight across the room. The entire cafeteria exploded in shocked gasps and cheers. Students jumped up from their tables to get a better view. Some were recording on their phones, others were just staring with their mouths open. Maya stood between the two boys who were sprawled on the floor, breathing normally like she had just finished a light warm-up exercise. Her white shirt was still stained with grape juice, but she looked completely composed. Jessica stared at her in complete disbelief. The girl who had been getting picked on just 30 seconds ago had just taken down both of her friends like they were beginners in a martial arts class. "How did you—" Jessica started to say, but the words died in her throat. Maya turned to look at her calmly. "Your turn to decide," she said quietly. "Are we done here? Or do you want to keep this going?" Jessica looked at her friends on the floor, then at Maya, then at all the students who were now cheering and clapping. She seemed to realize that this situation had gotten completely out of her control. "This isn't over," Jessica said, but her voice shook when she said it. "Yes, it is," Maya replied firmly. "It's very much over." Tyler was slowly getting to his feet, holding his back and wincing. He looked at Maya like he was seeing her for the first time. "What are you?" he asked, genuine confusion in his voice. "I'm someone who knows how to defend herself," Maya answered. "I tried to tell you guys to stop, but you wouldn't listen." Brad was taking longer to get up. That second throw had knocked the wind out of him, and he was lying on his back staring at the ceiling, probably wondering what had just happened to his life. The crowd of students was getting bigger. Word was spreading fast through the cafeteria, and kids from other lunch periods were coming to see what all the excitement was about. Maya could hear whispers and comments from all around her. "Did you see that throw? She just destroyed them." "Where? Did she learn to do that?" "Those guys picked the wrong person to mess with." That was incredible. But Maya wasn't paying attention to the crowd. She was focused on making sure this situation didn't escalate any further. She knew that sometimes when people got embarrassed like this, they made even worse decisions. She walked over to where Brad was still lying on the ground and knelt down beside him. "Are you hurt?" she asked, her voice genuinely concerned. Brad looked up at her, and she could see confusion and shame in his eyes instead of anger now. I don't think so," he said quietly. "Good," Maya said. "I didn't want to hurt anyone. I just wanted you to stop." She stood up and offered him her hand to help him get to his feet. Brad stared at her hand for a long moment like he couldn't believe she was offering to help him after what had just happened. Finally, he took her hand and let her pull him up. He was unsteady on his feet for a moment, but he managed to stay upright. The cafeteria had gotten quieter now. Students were still watching, but the excited shouting had died down to curious murmurs. Maya looked at all three of them, Brad, Tyler, and Jessica, and saw something different in their faces now. The mean confidence was gone. Instead, they looked confused, embarrassed, and maybe a little bit scared. "Look," Maya said, speaking to all three of them but loud enough for nearby students to hear. "I don't want to be anyone's enemy here. I just want to get through high school like everyone else." Tyler rubbed his shoulder where he had hit the table. "Where did you learn to fight like that?" "I've been studying martial arts since I was 8, Maya said simply. "But it's not about fighting, it's about discipline and respect, and knowing how to protect yourself when you need to." Jessica picked up her phone from where she had dropped it earlier. Maya noticed that she didn't seem to be recording anymore. "Why didn't you tell us you knew karate or whatever?" Jessica asked. "Taekwondo," Maya corrected gently. "And because it's not something I like to talk about. I'd rather use it for exercise and competition, not for this." She gestured around at the mess they had made, the scattered papers from her notebook, the spilled food, the overturned chairs. Brad was looking at the torn pages of her chemistry homework scattered across the floor. "I'm sorry about your notebook," he said quietly. Maya was surprised to hear him apologize. She had expected him to storm off or make threats or do something to try to save face in front of everyone. "It's okay," she said. "I can redo the homework." "No, it's not okay," Brad said, shaking his head. "We were way out of line. All of this was stupid." Tyler nodded slowly. "Yeah, it was. We thought." "You thought what?" Maya asked, genuinely curious. Tyler looked embarrassed. "We thought you were stuck up or something. You seemed like you didn't want to talk to anyone." Maya almost laughed, but she managed to keep a straight face. "I was nervous," she said. "It's scary being the new kid. I didn't know how to talk to people here." "So you weren't ignoring us because you thought you were better than us?" Jessica asked. "Of course not," Maya said. "I was just trying to figure out how to fit in without making anyone mad at me." The three of them looked at each other, and Maya could see them realizing how badly they had misread the situation. A teacher finally showed up, pushing through the crowd of students. "What's going on here?" Mrs. Patterson, the cafeteria supervisor, asked sternly. Maya looked at Brad, Tyler, and Jessica, wondering what they were going to say. Brad stepped forward first. "It was just a misunderstanding, Mrs. Patterson. We were goofing around and knocked some stuff over." Mrs. Patterson looked at the mess on the floor, then at the crowd of students, then at Maya's juice-stained shirt. "This looks like more than goofing around," she said suspiciously. Tyler jumped in. "No, really. We were just being clumsy. Sorry about the mess." Maya was surprised that they were covering for what had really happened. She had expected them to try to get her in trouble. Mrs. Patterson didn't look completely convinced, but without anyone complaining or accusing anyone else, there wasn't much she could do. "Well, clean this up and get back to your seats," she said. "Lunch period is almost over anyway." As the teacher walked away and the crowd of students started to disperse, Maya began picking up the torn pages of her notebook. Brad knelt down and started helping her gather the papers. "You didn't have to cover for us," he said quietly. Maya looked at him. "We all made mistakes today. No point in making it worse." And for the first time since she had arrived at Riverside High School, Maya thought that maybe, just maybe, things were going to be okay. By the end of that lunch period, word about what happened in the cafeteria had spread through Riverside High School like wildfire. Students who weren't even there were talking about it. The story got bigger with each telling, but the basic facts remained the same. The new girl from Chicago had just schooled 3 of the most popular kids in school. Maya spent the rest of the day trying to focus on her classes, but it was impossible to ignore the stares and whispers that followed her everywhere. Some students looked at her with new respect, others seemed curious, and a few appeared nervous, like they were worried she might throw them across a room too. During chemistry class, her teacher, Mr. Rodriguez, noticed her stained shirt and asked if she needed to call home for a change of clothes. Maya just smiled and said she was fine, that it was just a little accident at lunch. But the real surprise came during her last period study hall. Brad walked into the library and sat down at her table without saying a word. Maya looked up from her history textbook, wondering what he wanted now. "I talked to the principal," Brad said quietly, making sure other students couldn't hear him. Maya's heart skipped a beat. She had been hoping the whole incident would just blow over without any official consequences. "What did you tell him?" she asked. "The truth," Brad said, which wasn't what Maya expected to hear. "I told him that Tyler, Jessica, and I were picking on you, and that you were just defending yourself." Maya stared at him. "Why would you do that?" Brad looked uncomfortable, like he wasn't used to admitting when he was wrong. "Because it was the right thing to do, and because I've been thinking about what happened all afternoon. And I realized something," Brad continued. "You could have really hurt us, like really hurt us, but you didn't. You just did enough to make us stop." Maya nodded slowly. "That's what martial arts is about. It's not about hurting people. It's about protecting yourself and others." "Yeah, well, most people don't understand that," Brad said. "If someone embarrassed me the way we tried to embarrass you, I probably would have tried to really hurt them back." "That wouldn't solve anything," Maya said. "It would just make everything worse." They sat in silence for a moment, while Maya tried to figure out why Brad was really there. "There's something else," Brad said finally. "The principal wants to see you tomorrow morning before first period." Maya's stomach dropped. "Am I in trouble?" "No," Brad said quickly. "He just wants to hear your side of what happened, and he wants to talk to you about maybe starting some kind of martial arts program at the school." Maya blinked in surprise. "Seriously?" "Yeah. Apparently a bunch of students have been asking about it since lunch. Word got around about your skills, and now everyone wants to learn." Maya wasn't sure how she felt about that. Part of her was excited about the possibility of sharing something she loved with other students. But another part of her worried that people just wanted to learn how to fight. "What would you think about that?" she asked Brad. "Honestly, I think it would be awesome," he said. "But not for the reasons you're probably thinking." "What do you mean?" Brad looked around the library to make sure no one was listening, then leaned closer. "I've been thinking about why we picked on you today, and I realized it's because we were scared." "Scared of what?" "Scared that you were better than us somehow. Smarter, more confident, different in ways that made us look bad. Brad shook his head. It's stupid, but that's what it was. Maya had never thought about bullying from that perspective before. So you thought putting me down would make you feel better about yourselves? Something like that, Brad admitted. But watching you handle everything today, the way you stayed calm and only did what you had to do, it made me realize that confidence isn't about putting other people down. It's about knowing who you are and being okay with that. Maya was impressed by how much thinking Brad had done in just a few hours. That's exactly what my martial arts teacher always says, she told him. Master Chen says that true strength comes from inner peace, not from proving you're tougher than someone else. I'd like to meet this Master Chen sometime, Brad said. Maybe you will, Maya said, starting to warm up to the idea of teaching martial arts at school. If the principal is serious about starting a program. The next morning, Maya arrived at school early for her meeting with Principal Johnson. She had spent the evening talking to her parents about what happened, and they were proud of how she handled herself. Her mom reminded her that this could be a great opportunity to help other students learn the same lessons that martial arts had taught her. Principal Johnson turned out to be a friendly man in his 50s who seemed genuinely interested in what Maya had to say. I've spoken with the 3 students involved in yesterday's incident, he said. They all confirmed that you acted in self-defense, and they've all accepted responsibility for their behavior. What's going to happen to them? Maya asked. They'll be doing community service and attending some workshops about bullying and respect, the principal said. But I'm more interested in talking about something positive that could come out of all this. He explained that several students and even some parents had called the school asking about martial arts classes. They wanted to know if Maya would be interested in starting a club, or maybe even teaching some basic self-defense techniques. I'd love to, Maya said, but I'm not qualified to teach on my own. I'd need someone with instructor certification to supervise. Already thought of that, Principal Johnson smiled. It turns out, we have a substitute teacher who's a certified martial arts instructor. Mr. Kim has been looking for an opportunity to get more involved with student activities. Maya felt excitement building in her chest. This could be exactly what she needed to feel like she really belonged at Riverside High. When could we start? She asked. How about next week? We could begin with just a few interested students and see how it goes. Maya nodded eagerly. I think that would be great. As she left the principal's office, Maya found Tyler waiting for her in the hallway. Hey, he said, looking slightly nervous. Hi, Maya replied, wondering what he wanted. I just wanted to say thanks, Tyler said. Thanks for what? For not getting us suspended or expelled, Tyler said. You could have told the principal that we attacked you first, and we probably would have been kicked out of school. Maya shrugged. Everyone makes mistakes. The important thing is learning from them. Tyler smiled, and for the first time it looked genuine instead of mean. My little sister wants to join your martial arts club when it starts. She heard about what happened, and she thinks you're like a superhero or something. Maya laughed. I'm definitely not a superhero, just someone who's been lucky enough to have good teachers. Well, maybe you can be a good teacher too, Tyler said. As the weeks went by, the martial arts club became one of the most popular activities at Riverside High School. Students of all ages and backgrounds joined, from kids who wanted to learn self-defense to others who were just looking for a new way to exercise and make friends. Maya found that she loved teaching almost as much as she loved practicing. Watching. Shy students gained confidence, seeing bullies learn about respect and self-control, and helping everyone understand that martial arts was about much more than fighting made her feel like she was making a real difference. Brad, Tyler, and Jessica all joined the club in its second week. They became some of Maya's most dedicated students and eventually, some of her closest friends. Looking back on that first terrible lunch period, Maya realized that sometimes the worst moments in life can lead to the best opportunities. She had come to Riverside High School hoping to blend in and avoid trouble. Instead, she had found her purpose and earned the respect of her entire school community, and it all started with 3 bullies who made the biggest mistake of their lives by underestimating the quiet new girl from Chicago.